Did the recording start, Miss Lee? Okay, perfect. Good evening again. Thank you so much for attending our Running Start presentation this evening. So this presentation will go over the different ways that students can be a Running Start student for next year and how to apply. We'll talk about the different steps, and we'll also have questions at the end. Next slide, Miss Lee, please. All right. So I know that there may be families that are joining that potentially speak different languages. So you can turn the captions on for this video so that it could be translated into other languages. To turn on subtitles and captions, you can go click on the gear icon, and then you'll be able to have a menu that selects your captions and subtitles in your preferred language. So you can click that on, and then the CC button will let you turn on closed captions on and off if you wanted to make that adjustment. So the Running Start program is an optional program that students in 11th and 12th grade can enroll in for the upcoming school year. Students would take classes at our local two-year colleges, and they could get high school credit and college credit at the same time. The tuition for the Running Start classes is free, so families don't have to pay for the tuition. However, families will be responsible to pay for books and fees. So there are class fees that are associated that's outside of the tuition that families would have to pay for each quarter, and also transportation. So families would be responsible, students would be responsible to get to and from the local college on their own, and back to Cleveland if they choose to take classes at Cleveland as well. However, students who receive free and reduced lunch at Cleveland are eligible to request a fee waiver so that they would not have to pay for class fees if they're eligible for that. Even though students at Cleveland all receive free lunch this year due to a program that makes lunch available for all students, they must apply specifically for the free and reduced lunch program. And those applications can be found on the Seattle Public Schools website under the Culinary Services Department. And students and families can apply for free and reduced lunch there. They would then receive a confirmation letter that they could give to their counselor, and we would give them a fee waiver that they would submit to the college that would take care of all of the class fees. And students can then check out books from the Running Start office or the library, however their system is set up, so that they wouldn't have to pay for books either. Students may choose from either a full-time Running Start schedule, taking all of their classes at the college, or they could do a part-time schedule, or they could do some of their classes at the college and some of their classes at Cleveland. I'll give an example of what that looks like shortly. And the process of applying for Running Start, the entire process needs to be completed by May 2nd. We want to make sure that students and families are aware of the many benefits of the Running Start program, as well as the risks, because there are a lot of wonderful things that you can get out of Running Start, but there are some very serious risks too that families should be aware of when deciding whether this is the right fit or not for a student to join the Running Start program. So some of the benefits that many people are aware of is that you can earn high school and college credit at the same time. Students who enroll full-time in Running Start in their 11th and 12th grade years potentially could graduate from high school with their associate college degree at the same time. Another benefit is that students will have access to many more courses and electives than they might have at Cleveland. Students may also be able to transfer their Running Start credits to the majority of our four-year colleges in Washington State. each college gets to decide which credits will transfer, but because the two-year colleges do work with the four-year colleges, the majority of the credits typically will transfer in Washington State. And Running Start's a really great program for students who are independent learners who might excel in their learning, who can study what they don't know on their own with limited support from other teachers, and have the motivation and perseverance to continue on in very rigorous courses on their own with very limited support from other people. It's a good option in that sense. There are also some risks that students and families should be aware of. So some things that students don't necessarily think about is that by taking classes at the college campus, they're not going to have a traditional high school experience. And so some Running Start students report that they feel less connected with Cleveland, with other high school students, less social kind of life that is to be had in college because it's much more rigorous of courses. Students who are taking classes at the college as a result might miss out on a lot of like fun events at Cleveland, assemblies, other fun activities that we do during the school day. They can still participate in clubs and sports. That's still Running Start students have access to all of that. It's just, if, for example, if a club meets during lunchtime, but a student is at Running Start, then they won't be able to participate in all of the meetings, for example. Some other risks that students should be aware of is that the grades that you earn in Running Start will carry on into your future college endeavors. So, for example, some students think, well, I'm in high school, I get a certain GPA. That GPA is going to be their college GPA. So when they transfer their grades and credits potentially to the four-year college, the GPA follows them. And because the classes are much more rigorous in college, students that potentially get 4.0s, all A's at Cleveland, they might see a dip in their GPA. They might get a lower GPA as a result of taking much more rigorous courses with less support. The other thing that we want to make sure that families are aware of is that counselors, our school, we are not able to see students' grades in progress at Running Start. So I will have no idea if a student is excelling in their classes or if they're failing their classes. We don't know until we get the final grades on a college transcript to know how a student is doing. So it's the student's responsibility to communicate to families and to counselors how they're doing. If they're struggling or if they're needing support, they have to let us know, because we will not know how they are doing until we get their final transcript, and we can't change those grades. Students are also responsible for registering themselves for classes at the college. Counselors cannot register them. And students must sign up for specific classes that they need to graduate. If they fail to do that, they may not graduate on time. We've also found students registering late for classes or trying to register for classes and the classes being full. Even if it's a graduation requirement that they need, they cannot, if they don't register in time, they cannot get into the class. There's nothing that us counselors or our school can do if the student themselves does not register themselves on time for their classes. Other things that families should know is that full-time Running Start students will not have an advisory class. There's a lot of college and career support that's provided in advisory, especially in 12th grade. And students will miss out on that support. Support like 12th grade humanities teachers do a lot of support around personal statements for college essays, things like that. Running Start students won't have that built-in support if they're full-time and not able to take an advisory course at their college, or sorry, at the school. Cleveland. The other thing to know is that Running Start credits, while they typically will transfer within four-year colleges in Washington State, they may or may not transfer to out-of-state colleges. So out-of-state colleges have the ability to pick and choose and may not accept any of the credits. Some other things to think about is that if a student, a student who gets really good grades at Cleveland because they spend that extra time in following up with teachers after class, asking for help for things that they don't know, spending time at lunch, after school, just putting that putting in that extra effort in connecting with teachers for more help to get their good grades, they may benefit in staying at Cleveland because they will not receive that type of, or level of support at the college. And I know that's been a very hard transition for some of our Cleveland students to not receive much support at the college for their classes. And so other things to know is that Running Start is a year-long commitment. Students cannot start Running Start at the like mid-year. They have to like start and continue on through the whole year. And the grades that we receive from the college, they all go on the high school transcript. We can't pick and choose which ones we want to transfer. All of the college grades will transfer onto our high school transcript and will be calculated into their high school GPA as well as their college GPA later on. Another thing to know is that students must maintain a 2.0 GPA every quarter at the college. Otherwise, they may be on academic probation, which could lead to them having to withdraw from the Running Start program. And students must take responsibility in staying on top of important dates and deadlines and other events that might be happening at Cleveland. An example is that we offer the SAT to seniors now in the fall. And let's say that is at the same time as a class that a student's taking. Well, the college doesn't know what's happening at Cleveland. It's up to the student to potentially ask the college professor if they can miss the class to take the SAT test here at Cleveland. If the professor says no, then the student has to make a tough choice there. But it's the student's responsibility to stay up on top of all of those dates, especially senior-related deadlines and things that they need to do. They need to be able to stay on top of that. And that's usually communicated through email. So they do need to check their student school email, even if they're taking all classes at the Running Start program. So I said earlier that there's two different types of Running Start schedules. There's a full-time Running Start schedule, and there's also a part-time Running Start schedule. So the example of a full-time Running Start schedule is at the top. So students are considered full-time if they take 3 college classes per quarter. And there's 3 quarters in the school year for Running Start students. So they have the ability to potentially take 9 courses at the college for the full year. Students who are full-time Running Start, they may also have the option, they don't have to, but they have the option of taking a 1-period class at Cleveland. So for example, if they are part of drumline or band or whatnot, they could potentially take that 1-period class at Cleveland if they would like. And then students who would like to do the part-time Running Start schedule, they could take 2 classes per quarter at the college. And take up to 4 periods at Cleveland. And know that like Cleveland is on a semester system. So sometimes the breaks of Cleveland and the college don't align. So keep that in mind as well. And this is another, the bottom schedule is an example of a student taking 2 classes at the college per quarter and then 4 periods at Cleveland, typically in the afternoon, because most Running Start classes are offered in the morning, is typically how the college schedule looks. And counselors that work really closely with students to make sure that they are taking the classes that they need to graduate. So counselors will ask students to sign up specifically for like English 101, History 136, or specific courses that meet graduation requirements. But there will be a point in their schedules that they fulfill their graduation requirements, and then the student would want to work with the college advisor to work on like what types of electives or types of classes that will prepare them for their college major. So there'll be a point where students get more choice in their schedule later on. There's a few different Running Start class formats to be aware of. There is the in-person class format, which is just as it sounds. Students go in person to their classes. There's also virtual classes, which means that students meet online synchronously with a teacher at a specific day and time. They just log in online and just, the class is live. Then there's asynchronous online classes where students watch videos or do their own work on their own time, and they have to make sure that they turn in work by a certain deadline. There's also hybrid classes, which is a combination of in-person and online classes. There's another format that I want students to be aware of to not take, and that would be self-paced. If you ever see a course that says self-paced, Running Start does not cover self-paced classes. These are like $600 classes. So please do not register for a self-paced class. Your family will be responsible for paying for the self-paced class tuition. But all of the other formats for Running Start students would be covered. The tuition would be covered. I would also highly recommend that a student consider taking an in-person or at least a hybrid class, because we found that many Running Start students tend not to do very well in online classes where they don't really get a lot of teacher support or can even really talk to the teacher. It's really difficult. So in-person or hybrid classes are typically the recommended mode of format. I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Salee, who's going to talk about the different steps to apply for Running Start. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Abe, and thanks students and families who are listening to this presentation. Some students have heard this presentation before, but we wanted to make sure that families also get this important information. And at any point in time, if you have a question, feel free to drop it in the chat so that we can address it later, or Ms. Abe would be answering the questions in chat as well. So some students might ask, what are the steps to apply and how do I begin? Let's go over that. The first step for a Running Start is deciding which college is the right fit for you based on the distance, campus environment, and which courses are being offered. You can choose from a variety of colleges. There's over 30 colleges that is in the state of Washington. However, we generally see our students from Cleveland going to one of the local two-year colleges that include South Seattle, Seattle Central, North Seattle, Bellevue College, Highline, Green River, and Renton Technical. The closest one to us at Cleveland would be Seattle Central or South Seattle College. So steps to apply. We tell students, and students are aware that visiting the Running Start website of the college you are interested in to apply for the specific application directions. Each college will have different applications and different steps. So it's good to kind of do your research at first and go on to the specific college that you would like to go to. And so some of the steps, most of the colleges will include these steps. So you would apply to the college online, take the English and or math placement test. Step 3, complete the Running Start enrollment packet paperwork at the college. Step 4, students and parent guardians must attend this mandatory Running Start meeting on Teams. That's where you're at now. Step 5, if you have a lower than 3.0 GPA in the high school, you and your family must make an appointment with your counselor to discuss your eligibility for the Running Start program further. Step 6, attend the Running Start signing day. and bring signed forms found on the Cleveland High School website. If you've come to any of our lunchtime sessions or have dropped by the counseling office, you are able to have picked up these forms in person and have hard copies. Otherwise, all the forms are on the Cleveland High School Running Start website. Step 7, submit the enrollment packet and paperwork to the Running Start office by the May 2nd deadline. Step 8, sign up for a registration appointment and enroll into your classes at the college before June 30th. Step 9, let your counselor know which classes you're successfully enrolled to via email or filling out this form. And this form is on the website as well. We're also sharing these slides to you in our Cleveland Hub for students. Step 10, attend a new student orientation at the college. Step 11, pay the class fees, books, or submit a fee waiver. Continuing on, regarding the placement tests, all students will have to take the placement tests at the college to be eligible for Running Start. Students pursuing full-time Running Start need to take both the math and English placement test. The math placement test costs $25, and the English directed self-placement test might be free depending on the college. Students receiving free reduced lunch can request a fee waiver from your school counselor. For all the 10th graders pursuing Running Start next year who have not taken Algebra 2 yet, should really reconsider staying at Cleveland as a part-time student for their math and science classes in 11th grade and only take the English and history classes part-time at the college. With that said, the students who are doing part-time for humanities will only need to take the English placement tests. The scores from the placement test will dictate which classes you will be eligible to take at the college, and you will need to send the scores to your school counselor. So important dates and deadlines to think about. This is a great time to take a snapshot of this slide or visit the Cleveland Hub later on to get this slideshow. So just some important dates. Today, March 14th, we had our last Running Start Information Center session in the auditorium. Today, students are doing the mandatory presentation on teens. Counselors will also have Running Start drop-in support sessions for students on Wednesdays in the counseling office. So that's tomorrow, the 22nd, the 29th of March. And in April, we have the 5th, the 19th, and 26th. Additionally, the Running Start signing day in the library with counselors will be April 25th after school from 3:45 to 4:45, or Tuesday, May 2nd during lunch and advisory. So that day is important because you'll be coming with all your documentation that you need signed. That's part of the Cleveland High School, Seattle Public Schools paperwork that needs to be signed, including the EVF form from the college. Again, just emphasizing the deadline for getting Cleveland counseling signatures will be on May 2nd. All the forms will need to be signed by this date. However, I will have to say, if students have visited their college that they intend to go to, they've become a student at the college, have filled out their registration paperwork, have is attending this session, mandatory session with their family, then at one of the Wednesday drop-ins during lunch, counselors will be available to sign off on all your paperwork, and you can bypass the Running Start signing day in the library. Um, and complete all the class registration at the college by June 30th to be a Running Start student for fall of 2023. So just to kind of clarify some things about what the mandatory signing day is, this is where you will bring all completed paperwork to counselors to sign off. See checklist of what you need to bring below. And you don't have to go to all 3 of these session dates. You can choose one to go to and have all your paperwork signed. As you can see, this is not till April. So this is giving you an extensive time to get to visit the college, to become a student at the college, and do the testing that needs to happen, and getting all your forms signed. So what to bring on signing day? Documents can be found on the Cleveland High School Counseling website. This is a specific Cleveland High School form. It's the contract of memorandum. I'm going to click on the link to see if it pulls up here. And it does. So this is a form that your parents and students, it's kind of the contract to say everything that we've listed earlier. You've attended this meeting. You plan on becoming a student at Running Start. You'll adhere by the rules of Running Start and so forth. Then there's also a Running Start course plan worksheet. So what that looks like is a kind of a gauge of a grad checklist of all the classes that can count towards high school credit and college credit at the same time. So you would look at this course plan worksheet and then fill out the courses that you will take or plan to take. And counselors understand that things happen and classes get shifted around. So this is more for your guide to mapping out and picking out your courses for the next school year. We've also included a graduation requirements checklist. So this also helps you and pick out the courses that you still need in order for graduation. So looking at this, filling this out, using your transcript or logging into the source and looking at your historical grades to map this out. And then there's also another way to do that, and that's going into Naviance and looking at your course planner. And then lastly, there is also the Running Start enrollment verification form. This is a form that you would take back to the college, filled out. So as you can see, there's, please make sure you fill out this form correctly. There's a student portion, and then there's a high school counselor and Running Start advisor portion. Students usually have this filled out and so that counselors can sign. And this RSEVF form is really important because this is a form that you email to your counselors every quarter to get signed. Um, and Other things to note on here, make sure that you have your placement test results to show your counselor on the mandatory signing day. The letter from Nutrition Services to confirm that you're on free reduced lunch if you are requesting a fee waiver for college and books. And then lastly, after May 2nd, after going to a Running Start orientation day at the college, you're a Running Start student. And so just some reminders that are really important is that although you might have a personal email, your Seattle Schools email is still very active, and making sure that you check your Seattle Schools email um, regularly will also help. And then it's your responsibility to email your RSEVF form quarterly to your counselor before registration to get that signed off so that you could register for your college classes. And then lastly, join the Remind group. This is a way for counselors to get you information that you need. And to do that, you could sign up at the www.remind.com slash join slash scouncil, or send a text message to 81010 to at scouncil. So those are the two ways to join our Remind group. I'm going to leave this slide on so that you can see it and also joined the Remind group. But if you have any questions, we are opening it up for questions. And Miss Abe, you're welcome to turn on your mic as well. And if there's any questions that we think we could answer and clarify for students, that would be great, that you think is worth mentioning to the whole group, because when I'm going over the slideshow, I can't see the questions.
Yes, we have a lot of great questions in the chat, and I've answered almost all of them except the last one. But a lot of the questions have to do with where to find the paperwork. So in the link to this presentation, I put it in the chat. You can find the links for all of the Cleveland paperwork that you will need to make sure is signed and returned to your counselor. And this is the Cleveland paperwork. There's also the college enrollment paperwork as well. The best way to access the college enrollment paperwork is simply to Google like the college that you're hoping to attend and Running Start. So for example, Google Seattle Central Running Start, and then their website will pop up, and they have a good like list of like all the steps that you need to do to enroll into Running Start at their college. And all the forms and all the things that placement test information can all be found on each college's individual website. When doing full-time Running Start is lunch free. So at the college, unfortunately, no, there's no free lunch at the college. Uh, we potentially could talk to our school cafeteria if you wanted to pick up a lunch before going to Running Start, maybe, but check with your counselor and we can try to connect if that's a need that a student has.
There was a question about, can students use their Cleveland computer for college classes? Yes, all students at Cleveland are assigned a laptop, and most of our students will use your assigned high school laptop for their college courses.
And another great question in the chat is there enough traveling time to go back and forth? So it's the student's responsibility to make sure that they are scheduling their classes at the college with enough travel time to return to Cleveland if they have Cleveland classes. So we cannot change. So once Cleveland, we create our schedule and schedule a student if they're part-time. That those are the set times, and students are then supposed to schedule their college classes around their Cleveland times. We can't schedule Cleveland classes around the college times.
There's a question about if we're already completed Algebra 2 with an A, do we still have to do math in Running Start? That could be your choice. That means that if you choose to do full-time Running Start, then you would have to take the math placement test to see if you qualify for math over 100 to be able to take math classes over at the Running Start. Or you can come here to take classes. Ms. Abe, do you want to take the next question after that?
Yep. And also to clarify about the Algebra 2 question, if you're currently in Algebra 2, you must take the math placement test if you plan to take math at the college, because the college requires both semester grades to be submitted in order to potentially use the transcript instead of the math placement. The other benefit to taking the math placement test is there are some colleges that might place a student into pre-calc, but there are some colleges that may not. With the Algebra 2 grades, they might place them in other college level math, like business math 116 or statistics 146, but not into pre-calculus. So students might have to take the math placement test to place into a different level math class. It really depends on the student's grade on the transcript and the college's like placement system. And all of that information is on each individual's college's website. And then a question about can they do Running Start in the summer too? The Running Start, free tuition for Running Start is not covered during the summer. Students can take classes at the college during the summer, but it would be the family's responsibility to pay for tuition during the summer for those classes.
And that's communicating with after the summer ends and getting that transcript to be put on your high school transcript here at Cleveland. Question, do most students in part-time Running Start take the bus or drive? Great question, and I'd have to say we have over 120 students doing Running Start this year, and it's kind of, I can't really tell you what that might look like, but our students do take public transportation, and the closest way to do that is either going on one bus to Central Community College, or taking the bus and hopping on the light rail. And if students drive, the best campus to do that is with a lot of parking. So South Seattle College has parking, Highline has parking, Bellevue has parking.
You might have to pay though, depending on the campus. If your GPA is not a 3.0 or higher, do they not let you do it? So if a student has a below a 3.0 GPA, they would need to set up a meeting with their counselor, their family, and their counselor to discuss it further. We just want to make sure that Running Start's the right fit. We want to make sure that students are ready for this very rigorous level of courses, and just to talk about that further with a student family together.
What if I only want to take ELA classes at college and not math? Do you still have to do either placement test? So for a student who only wants to do part-time ELA classes at the college, they would only be doing the English placement test.
Next question is, do we apply for Running Start first or Cleveland classes? Yeah, you might be doing it at the same time because Cleveland registration is going to be starting in the next few weeks, depending on your humanities class. So you can start applying for Running Start now if you'd like to by going to their website and following all of the directions on how to enroll in the college's Running Start program. So you can do it kind of at the same time if you wanted to. But Cleveland class registration will be coming up. If you do plan to do Running Start, when you talk with your counselor at registration in your humanities class, you can also mention to your counselor that that's your plan as well.
how does Running Start work with the Cleveland pathways like engineering? So if you become a Running Start student, there's a lot more flexibility because it kind of depends if you can take the classes or not. The majority of our students, when they do become Running Start students, they have the option to not do a pathway because there's other classes that will take precedent to be able to fulfill their graduation requirement.
The next question is, so if you don't get a score of 100, you can't do Running Start. So the math placement tests have like a different score range, and you have to score within a certain score range to place into specific math classes. But there is a score that a student has to get above to place into college level math, which is at the 100 level. So for example, there's a math 98, and that's like an algebra 2 level course, but Running Start does not pay tuition, or sorry, tuition is not like you can't get free tuition for classes that are under the 100 level. So math 98, for example, would not be covered by Running Start, but any math course that's over the course number is over 100, then that is eligible for Running Start tuition. And if you get below the score to not get into college level math, if that makes sense, you may not be able to take math at the college. You might have to take it at Cleveland.
I think you answered the next question, Miss Abe. Do you still have to do math somewhere? Yes. So you have to do either way, you would have to do math either at the college or the high school.
Next question, for biomed classes or engineering classes, do we still have to take that at Cleveland, or are there different classes you can take at the college? That's your choice. If it fits in your schedule and you want to take them at Cleveland and there's room in those classes, potentially you can. Otherwise, you can choose just to take other classes at the college is fine.
Next question is, what if you're already taking pre-calc in 10th grade? Where I guess I don't really fully understand that question. I'm thinking that if you're taking pre-calc in 10th grade, you want to take the math placement test at the college to see where you're placed, is what my assumption is, that's what you would do. Or if you decide to be a part-time student, you would choose a different math class here at Cleveland. And that is, I'm blanking out right now. After pre-calc, I don't have my guide with me.
So after pre-calc, you can choose to take AP Calculus or AP Statistics. Or if you're going to be in 12th grade next year, you could take Math 107. The other benefit of taking the math placement test, if you're already in pre-calc, is because there's two levels of pre-calculus in college level at the college. So if you're trying to get to calculus, you might want to take the math placement test, because you might, by just submitting like your pre-calc grades, you might not get to calculus. You might have to take that second level pre-calc class. So if I had Algebra 2 last year, I don't have to take the placement. Similar question. You might not have to, it depends on your grade, because I think a student has to get like an A minus or higher. It depends on the college and their like placement of like, if you had Algebra 2 grades with like, I think it's A minus or higher, then potentially you can place in college level math, but that does not mean that you're going to place into pre-calculus. You might place into something else. And so that's a conversation you can have with the college in terms of whether you should take the math placement test or not.
When is the first day of Running Start? So this just varies by college. Um, I would generally say it's late September is when the colleges will have their first day. And that doesn't necessarily coincide with Seattle Public Schools' first day. So you really have to be mindful of the calendars at the college along with the high school calendar.
And next question is, if the student completed all required classes to graduate from high school in 11th grade, are they still take running, I guess, can they still take Running Start college classes, it is our recommendation that yes, that even though you finished all of your graduation requirements in 11th grade, could technically graduate from high school, it would be to your benefit to continue on for that free year of more college tuition. So you would continue on in 12th grade and take free college classes to help you obtain your associate degree, or to help in transferring those credits onto your whatever major you're hoping to get into at the four-year college. So it is to the student's benefit to stay in high school and continue on Running Start in 12th grade.
And also, if you're thinking about moving on to university after high school, you want to have the most competitive courses that you can and a full schedule on your schedule.
There's also some colleges that offer a direct transfer agreement. So if you complete a direct transfer agreement at the college and they have that agreement at the four-year college you're going to, that means that all of those credits that you took at Running Start are guaranteed to transfer to the four-year college. Usually the college, the two-year college will have a list of the four-year colleges that they have that partnership with on their website.
This is a parent question. If students do part-time as juniors, do they miss out on significant part of Cleveland community life? Um, from what we've heard for students who are participating in Running Start, they do. And but that's because they're not at Cleveland participating in lunchtime clubs, sports, or anything that's happening after school. Some students, though, will have their schedule aligned where they're taking their Running Start classes in the morning. So they're doing part-time in the morning. Then they come to Cleveland High School and take remainder classes here at the high school. And that still kind of allows them to do after-school sports on campus. I guess I shouldn't say allowed, because even if you are a Running Start student, you can still take sports. It would just be easier if you are already at the Cleveland campus.
The next question, I think I answered already, but yes, you're allowed to take Running Start classes. Even if you finished your high school requirements in 11th grade, you can take Running Start classes in 12th grade. And then the benefit of Running Start versus AP classes offered at the college. Four-year colleges have given the feedback that they want students to choose the most rigorous courses that are available to them, that are aligned with what they're interested in studying. So I would say that one is not better than the other, as long as a student is like following what their interests are. And picking the most rigorous classes that are available to them, whether it's at Cleveland, whether it's at Running Start. So they're seen as the same for four-year colleges. However, the benefit of Cleveland AP classes is that you're going to get the college level class with support from Cleveland teachers, where you can stay after school, get help at lunchtime, get all that like extra support to to help you in passing the AP test. Whereas Running Start, you get very limited support from college professors. They might have office hours, they might not. And so that's, some benefit there. Benefit to Running Start is that students tend to have a higher weighted GPA because they're taking more weighted classes at the college. And they have access to maybe a student's not interested in STEM classes. We are a STEM high school. Maybe they're interested in different classes and they're able to pursue that interest over there. So that answers that question.
Where can I find the classes the college offers for Running Start? They'd be by the college that you want to go to. So I would say explore, for example, Seattle Central College, and look at all the course offerings that they have. So it's going on to search and looking for the college and finding their course registration classes.
I think the next question would like to see the slide with the sample schedules again. And then, can you maintain your pathway in Running Start? Are there equivalent classes at the college that would still satisfy the STEM tracks? So maintain your pathway. Well, I mean, yes, if I mean a pathway is kind of like that word is used in so many different ways. Pathway could mean the sequence that's specific to Cleveland. Like we have a pathway sequence of like classes that you would take at Cleveland that just like help in aligning like the student's education within that pathway, I guess. There's also this graduation pathway requirement that by taking those classes, it will meet the graduation requirement. But at the college, it's you could take classes that are similar. So, for example, the AP Computer Science pathway at Cleveland, it's a series of classes. You could take a computer science class at the college. It's not necessarily like the same like order or thing like sequence really, but it's in the same like content area. So you're still gaining important content through like classes at the college as well that might continue on in terms of rigor as well. I'm not sure if I answered that well, but you do have a lot of more options at the college in terms of offerings.
What about the score of English? What do you need to get into Running Start? Um, and so I would recommend going into the college that you want to attend and taking the placement test for English. We can't really tell you what test it is and what the score is because each college might have a different English test to get into their college. I'm just going to answer the next question. It says, what is Running Start? And so Running Start is for students who qualify in 11th and 12th grade to do college, community college, and high school classes at the same time to get college and high school credit.
The next question are what are science lab classes? I don't know if you're looking at one of our graduation checklist forms, but it can be confusing because sometimes you'll see like classes that you need to graduate and it says science, and then there's some boxes below it that say science lab. What all that means is that there are certain classes where you can get science credit that don't have a lab attached to it. Examples are like computer science can technically be a science class, but there's no like lab that you think of like when you do like biology, you might be doing some like dissection labs or whatnot. So that's what the term lab refers to.
If I go to an out-of-state college, how would they view my transcript if I did Running Start? So it depends. Some out-of-state colleges will take Running Start courses, and most will not. So let's say you did English 101 at Seattle Central College. There, a school might take it, out-of-state college might take the class that you took in Washington State Community College. But let's say they didn't. So when you go out of state, you would be repeating another English course at their college.
Next question is what if both pre-calc 1 and 2 is taken? Can we enroll in calculus? So I'm not sure if you're referring to pre-calc 1 and 2 at the college or like pre-calc semester 1 at Cleveland, pre-calc semester 2 at Cleveland. But if it's at the college level, yes. If a student has taken pre-calc 1 and pre-calc 2, so typically Math 141, Math 142, then they're able to enroll into calculus Math 151. If it's at Cleveland and they've taken our pre-calculus classes there, here at Cleveland, sorry, then depending on the grade that one receives, they potentially could enroll into calculus, but pre-calc has to be, actually, it depends on the college. There's some colleges that won't let you do that. They do make you take the math placement test. So dependent on the college. Yeah, so please connect with them about that further. But
how do I get them to pay for the placement test when you have free reduced lunch? This varies by colleges. At times, it could be going into a Running Start office at the college and showing them that you're on free reduced lunch. That could get you a bypass to take the placement test. Other times, depending on the college, they give you a form that you have to take back to your school counselor or email to your school counselor that we have to sign off on. So it just really depends on the college and how you get that placement test waived and free.
and then for counselors to sign off on the waiver, we just need documentation that the student receives free or reduced lunch. If that's the letter from culinary services, that we'll take that. And then once you sign the waiver, you send it back to the Running Start office, and then they'll give you directions on how to access the placement test. Usually, typically it's a code, and then you like type it into the online test. But it might be different depending on the college. What classes count as CTE credit? So career and technical education courses, so typically like business courses, for example, will count for career and technical education. We, typically students at Cleveland have plenty of CTE credit because of their pathway classes are all CTE credit. So usually that high school graduation requirement is fulfilled before a student even goes to Running Start.
And I'm going to say that we have 3 more minutes. We're going to answer as much as we can. And if we have not gotten to all your questions, we'll compile it and post it in the hub so that you can read the answers as well. So a student asked, can you take evening classes? Although counselors do not recommend taking evening classes, you may be able to take evening classes, depending on if your courses are offered in the evening.
The next question is, since we're not going to be doing our pathway classes, will we have to take 2 years of art? For students need to take at a minimum 1 credit of art, so 2 semester classes at Cleveland, or a 1/4 class, 1/4 art class at the college. So if you've not taken 2 semesters of art at Cleveland, then you can take art, 1/4 of art at the college, and that will fulfill 2 semesters.
Um, Last question is, so I'm about to complete my PE credits due to sports. Will I still need to waiver the credits with the sports, or will I waiver it because of Running Start? So I have to be really clear that if you do a sport, you don't get credit for the sport. You would get a waiver, meaning that you kind of get it stands for W on your transcript saying that you waived PE because you've completed it in a different way. And so generally students at Cleveland who do sports can get a PE waiver. Students who have a full-time schedule with Running Start could also potentially get a waiver, depending on what your schedule will look like.
Excellent questions this evening. Again, counselors will have drop-in sessions with students at lunch on Wednesdays starting tomorrow. So students are welcome to drop in and get questions answered. We can look for paperwork, sign off on paperwork if it's completed. And then I think Miss Lee said in the chat, if there's additional questions, we will also answer those as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.